What's good? What's up, everybody? And welcome to the Press Box, the sports information platform. And I'm your host, C. Will. Today we have a special show. Today I wanted to do something special, something that I've never done, and that is I wanted to make a show that's devoted to giving my insight on the point spreads this week, and I'm gonna do a show for pro football as well later on this week once I take a look at the lines uh, for those games, and I'll be keeping a record of the number of games that I get right, as long as I'm still doing it. So that way, you guys can kind of see, uh, for yourselves that you know this guy may know a little something. He's not just on camera just fluffing. So, um, I just wanted to kind of add something different to what we do, and I think this would be a good thing to uh, engage the people that don't understand the point spread and the people who actually do play point spread if they need some extra information about the games that they're interested in playing. That's what I'm here for. And that's one thing that I've never done was really share my picks. But this is a new day, and I actually been betting for about 15 years. So uh, you know I got a lot of insight in this industry, and and I'm here to share it to those that I guess if they need it, they'll they'll take it. So whether you need it or not, it'll be here. So this show is going to be devoted to the SEC conference. I will be making another college show as well to include all the other top games for week 4 this week, and we'll dive right in. So we'll start with the first game on tap, the Kentucky Wildcats at the Vanderbilt Commodores. Kentucky is a 13.5 point favorite, and this is their first road game. So it's kind of a high number. Vanderbilt did uh, take a loss in their last couple of games. I think they lost to UNLV in their last game when they played at UNLV, the score being 40-37, and they took a loss on the road to Wake Forest. So they're on a 2-game losing streak, but they have been away from home. Um, that's a high number for a team like Kentucky, who really hasn't been tested this week. I don't believe they played anybody that is other than mid majors. I think they play Akron and Ball State and then an FCS school. So Vanderbilt won the last game on the road at Lexington last year. Kentucky is going to be wanting to get some revenge, but I'm gonna go with Vanderbilt in the 14 points right now that the line is at. I don't think Kentucky can go on the road based on who they played and actually beat a team that's in, like, I guess, the same. Not saying that they're are equally as good as Vanderbilt, but Vanderbilt is an SEC team. So um, I'm gonna go Vanderbilt on that one. That game is at 11 o'clock. Auburn and Texas A&M. Auburn is 3-0 coming into the game. Um, Granted, they haven't really played too much competition, but they still are 3-0. This will be their first real test. A&M coming into this game very much tested. Coming in off of a SEC win. Um, I'm sorry, they coming in off of a home win, and they played Miami and they lost that game. So that was a test on the road, and they bounced back at home last week. To win by about 40 points. They're averaging about near 40, and they're covering the point spread at home. So being the fact that it is in Texas A&M, A&M is playing great at home. This is Auburn's first true road test. I doubt that they'll be able to keep pace. Being that this is the toughest competition and it's on the road. And if we add in the revenge factor, being that Auburn won last year at home, A&M will be remembering that, and that will serve as extra motivation as we can expect for them to play a good game at home. So I would take A&M in that 7, and that game also was at 11. In the 2:30 game, Ole Miss at Alabama. Um, Ole Miss coming in 3-0, and they're actually 3-0 against the point spread as a favorite. But due to the history of the Alabama matchups, Alabama has won the last 7 games. So they had to make them an underdog, even though they shouldn't be an underdog in this game. They played a road game against a ranked team, Tulane, and won by 18 points, 38-20, when they were favored by 13. So this game, Ole Miss gets 7 points, playing against an Alabama team that is struggling on offense at quarterback. Still don't know who the number one guy is. So uh, I think Jalen Milrose will be the guy again, but we know he's more of a runner than a thrower. So I think offensively, with Jackson Dart in the running game of Ole Miss, I think that Ole Miss would be more balanced, and I think that Alabama will be more one-dimensional, and that's going to put more pressure on Alabama's defense, who's playing lights out, by the way. But I'm taking Ole Miss not only to cover the 7 points, but I'm taking them to win outright, especially based on what I've been seeing. Um, Alabama having trouble scoring points this year, only putting up 17 points at South Florida last week. So Ole Miss +7. Okay, the 3 o'clock game will be next. That'll be Texas San Antonio at Tennessee. Tennessee coming off a tough loss at the Swamp against conference game against Florida. Goes goes home. Tennessee really still trying to find itself. Hasn't really looked like the Tennessee that we have grown to know over the past year or so, year and a half. Um, but going home and playing against a UTSA team that really hasn't played nobody of any competition. I think Houston was their toughest opponent, and they lost by 3 points. And I still believe that Tennessee is way better than what Houston is. So I would take Tennessee in those 21 points at home. Coming off of the loss will be uh, angry, and they'll be looking to take their frustrations out on. I don't want to call them a low mid-major, but a mid-major school that's actually struggling right now. So I would take Tennessee in those 21 points. So now we're at the 6 o'clock games. We'll start with Charlotte at Florida. Charlotte is a mid-major. Uh, Florida coming in off the big win at home against Tennessee. They were underdogs in that game, and they actually won it straight up. My concern about that game is uh, will Florida have enough energy? I mean, I expect for them to win the game because they're just that much better, but will they have enough energy to win by 30 points? Even though we know that they can if they were motivated, but in this game, they may be a little bit overconfident. And, because we're looking at a team that's not really used to having, big wins as of late. So beating the ranked Tennessee, now you go out of conference play to play a team that you expected to win. And I feel like 30 points is a lot of points. 28 actually, but that's near 30. That's a lot of points. Florida, you know, has for the most part, they still finding themselves. I mean, it's not like they just lit it up offensively, all year. So I'll bet against the number because I know that the majority of the public is probably going to take Florida because they just beat a ranked team. So I'm sure that line probably would go up, probably as close to 30. Um, So I probably would wait to see if I was to bet on that game. I would wait to see how high the line would go, and I would take the underdog and the plus 28 points or whatever it's going to end up being on that. Definitely can't lay that many points on Florida. Okay, So the next game at 6 o'clock is the Arkansas Razorbacks. So most of y'all Razorback fans, I know y'all are saying, when is he gonna get to our game? And I'm a Hog fan. Playing LSU is always a big deal to us. Playing them rather early this year, I think we're playing them too early because we still are trying to figure out who we are. Me being a Razorback fan, I say we because even though I do all the sports, but the Razorbacks is the only true team that I support and love. But playing LSU is always a big deal. When I go back to the history of this matchup, I go back to the last two meetings. The winner uh, only winning by a field goal, and both games were very high. I'm sorry, very low scoring. Last year being 13-10, and 2 years ago Arkansas won 16-13. So LSU won last year 13-10 on the road, and then Arkansas won 16-13. So Arkansas is a 17.5 point underdog. So you look at that, and then you look at how it's gone, and I'm almost sure people is thinking like that can't be right, and it doesn't like seem like it should be right because Arkansas, you know, should be able to play a good game. But again, there's still questions about my team, the Hogs, and my heart tells me we can go down there and compete because I'm gonna always be a fan at heart. But when I look at the way that we're playing, we're committing. First of all, we getting dominated on the line of scrimmage, and you're playing against a dominant defensive front, so that's not good. How much confidence can we have against a dominant front with this being our toughest challenge so far? When you can't dominate and even hold your hold your own against lesser talented lines. So there's a question there. The atmosphere is going to be lit. Do we really expect for the line to figure it out when they're not even going to be able to hear the snap count of KJ? It's going to be way more penalties this week. I know football. This is not a ideal matchup for a team that's lacking confidence. That's why losing to BYU was huge because in order to compete in these type of games, you got to have some momentum that you're bringing to the game, and you need to be up and not down. And the way that we lost last game, I know that we're down because we know that we should have won. What else? LSU only committed 6 penalties in their last game and didn't make any turnovers. Arkansas made 2 turnovers and committed 14 penalties. So you can't run the ball really consistently. You can't pass protect because that's what happened in the end. Our passing game, they were able to neutralize it because they got pressure. And you're making mental mistakes with penalties, and you playing against a team that's playing great offense. They're running the ball well. They're passing the ball extremely well. They're not committing penalties. They're not turning the ball over. So I see why it's 17, because what are the odds of Arkansas playing to their level in just 1 week? So if I was a betting man, I'm a betting man, but if I was to bet on that game, I would bet LSU. My job, because I know that I'm getting more people watching the channel than just Arkansas fans. So I have to tell the truth. So I can't let my heart say take Arkansas when it don't look like it's supposed to be that. So just going by what I see, the best bet in that game is LSU in the 17.5. Then we have the last 3 games of the night: Memphis at Missouri, which to me is the toughest game. Missouri coming in off the big win against number 15 Kansas State last week. Missouri really hadn't played anybody, and they had a struggle against Navy last week at home. This is their second road game, playing Arkansas State Red Wolves in their previous road game, and they dominated them. But we know that Missouri is tough at home. They're not Arkansas State, and they're coming in off a big win against a ranked team, and the spread is only 5.5. It's hard for me to see them you can come out flat But being the fact that Memphis, power ranking is like 68, and I think Missouri's is like 59. It's like they're kind of close together. So it'd be hard pressed for me to think that they won't show up against a team that is projected to be their equal on paper. But the 5.5 is not that much. It's just a touchdown. Missouri is tough at home. They beat the Razorbacks last year at home. They beat ranked 15 Kansas State at home. So I mean, Memphis probably is good for their league, but I can't take them in a game like this. So I think that Missouri and the -5 is the pick in that game. Then we have Mississippi State and South Carolina. Mississippi State coming in off the big loss against LSU, where uh, they came in to their place and practically dominated. And Mississippi State just took their L. I'm not really impressed with them. With looking at their other games, this is their first true road game against an angry South Carolina team that's coming off 2 wins against some tough competition. They played against North Carolina, who's ranked the first week, and got it handed to them. And they bounced back at home to win by 28 as the favorite, even though that was a FCS team. But still, I think that the way that they played against Georgia, the number 1 team, is going to give them enough confidence going home to be able to win that game. So I would take the 6 points in South Carolina in that game. And the last game of the evening will be the UAB Blazers at the Georgia Bulldogs. Georgia being a -42 points. That's by 6 touchdowns. UAB, granted, is a mid-major, and yes, we know that if Georgia was mad and had something to prove, they would win by 42. But they won last week, and they won in an unimpressive fashion, only putting up 24 points. It's hard for me to see them scoring 50. I mean, they could score 50, but these type of games when you are not necessarily playing your best and you're playing against somebody that's not going to challenge you to get better, the bad habits tend to uh, still linger. So I would just bet against that number. I know some people will say they're not going to bet against Georgia, but Georgia hasn't covered a spread all year. So I only go by what I see. But that's a high number, and it probably will keep rising. So I'll keep an eye on that. So just to review all the picks again, um, Vanderbilt by Vanderbilt plus the 13.5 against Kentucky, and then Texas A&M minus the 7 against Auburn. Then there's Ole Miss plus the 7, and I also said straight up against Alabama. Tennessee minus the 21 points against UTSA. LSU minus the 17.5 points against Arkansas. Charlotte is going to cover the 28 against Florida. And Mississippi State and South Carolina. South Carolina will cover the 6 at home. And I got UAB keeping it under 42. So these are my picks for the SEC this week. I will be posting my picks, so they'll be posted. I'll be posting my record so you guys can actually see for yourselves that I'm pretty good at this. And like I said, I'm just here to share what I know with anyone who feels like they can, get some use out of that information. So I want to thank you guys for tuning in. Those of you who stayed around to the end, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, the Press Box, and go ahead and give your comments if this topic interests you. Go ahead and leave us a comment. Give us a like if you like us, and we'll be back with part 2 of our predictions for week 4. So until the next time, y'all be safe. I'm C. Will. I'm out.